So, part 2. I was playing with the phone to try to get the glare off my glasses. We were reading through What's on Your Mind in Anthony DeMello's Awareness, the Perils and Opportunities of Reality, page 26, 27. And like I said, I lost it. We paused when we were trying to make sense of what he was saying with regard to Henry, how you've changed. You were so tall and you've grown so short. You were so well built and you've grown so thin. You were so fair and you've become so dark. What happened to you, Henry? And Henry says, I'm not Henry, I'm John. Ah, you've even changed your name. How do you get people like that to listen? We were trying to make sense of exactly what he was asking there. So let's pick up from there. I will put a part 2 on this, so you know that go back and pick up the first half, more than half, of this particular section. The most difficult thing in the world is to listen, to see. We don't want to see. Do you think a capitalist wants to see what is good in the communist system? Do you think a communist wants to see what is good and healthy in the capitalist system? Boy, this is a really good question for this time in our human history and our political history and climate in the United States of America. Interesting that I put the word united in front of that. Do you think a communist wants to see what is good and healthy in the capitalist system? Do you think a Republican wants to see what's good about democratic ideals, or the Democrat wants to see what's good in the capitalist? I meant Republican ideals. Do you think a rich man wants to look at poor people? We don't want to look, because if we do, we may change. We don't want to look. If you look, you lose control of the life that you are so precariously, I was going to read that as preciously, holding it precious, precariously holding together. If you look, you lose control of the life that you are so precariously holding together. Why else would we, wow, can't even get these words out. Why else would we resist any new idea? Unless we were fighting to hold on to something. Not just that was precious to us. I think there's a reason he chose the word precarious. Because it's fragile. And yet we defend it so vehemently, sometimes so violently. Precisely because it's precarious. What does that tell you about that idea that's held so firmly? And so in order to wake up, the one thing you need the most is not energy or strength or youthfulness, good to hear, or even great intelligence. The one thing you need most of all is the readiness to learn something new. He talked in some previous sections that truth isn't something I can give you. It's not even something I can really read to you from a book, even though that's what we're doing together. Just that's the way we're sharing some time together at the beginning of this new year. He suggested the idea, so you decide if it lands for you, if it resonates, that truth is something we glimpse from a particular attitude of openness and willingness to learn something new. Can we soften around? I think I challenged you. I believe it was now going to be part 1 of this particular reading today, because I ended up accidentally turning off the video. I invited you to look at an idea of something you might be holding on to rigidly, protecting. You recognize it's hardwired. And if you'll pause Pause this video again if you didn't in the previous video. If you're ready, something will come to mind that you're ready to challenge and look at in a new light. That's freedom. That's finding your own wisdom, your own. You might be ready to challenge some idea. I don't know, I'm going to say, excuse the expression, that you swallowed, hook, line, and sinker, from somebody else. It wasn't even your original idea, but you've programmed it, you've hardwired it into your brain, and you're defending it violently. Are you ready to be open and willing to listen to your own intuition, to trust in your own inner wisdom, your own inner knowing? In order to wake up, the one thing you need the most is not energy or strength or youthfulness or even great intelligence. The one thing you need most of all is the readiness to learn something new. The chances that you will wake up are in direct proportion to the amount of truth you can take without running away. I have to go back and look at what we read 3 days ago before I took the break and did the reading. I like to do a New Year's reading to invite some energies in to create with and play with and just to influence our new year. From the deck, The Fifth Tarot by Teresina and Martin Balkans, that I've been working with for over a decade. Just beautiful imagery, beautiful messages. But was I running away? I mean, it's okay to take breaks. We need gentleness breaks. That's how this really isn't a race. Even if you're tuning into this because you really want help waking up, it's not a race. This may not sound true, but you can't do this wrong. Where in here did he say? So probably in part 1 of tonight's reading, where he talks about giving yourself why weep for sins that you committed when you were asleep? Don't weep for your sins. Why weep for sins that you committed when you were asleep? Are you going to cry because of what you did in your hypnotized state? Why do you want to identify with a person like this? I don't like that phrase. Wake up, repent, put on a new mind. You can do it. There's beauty all around us. Happiness is available in any given moment if we don't put conditions on it. I tend to call that joy. Happiness to me, I do see as a potentially fleeting or conditioned state, whereas joy feels eternal. Always available, maybe not always accessible as in I'm accessing it in every given moment, but always available. So the chances that you will wake up are in direct proportion to the amount of truth you can take without running away. How much are you ready to take? How much of everything you've held dear are you ready to have shattered? Here's our moment in this video to relax. Even though that was a tough question, how much of what you hold dear are you ready to have shattered? Can you connect to your breath and relax around that question right now? Take a minute. Do it. And if you can't relax, just notice the reaction within you. Notice what you're experiencing, how you're reacting to that question. What thought came to mind that you've held again? I just invited you to do that just a second ago. Something that you've held dear that you're ready to maybe let go of, to question, to have shattered. Without running away. I mean, if you've been joining me for this ride and this read since January 1st, I applaud you. You haven't run away. How ready are you to think of something unfamiliar? How ready are you to change the channel in your brain, to create a new neural pathway, to look at the world through new eyes, through the beginner's mind, the innocence and joy of a childlike state? We may equate childhood with, or being childlike as an adult, we may equate that with weakness, vulnerability, being unprotected. The first reaction is one of fear. It's not that we fear the unknown. You cannot fear something that you do not know. Nobody is afraid of the unknown. Which is interesting because I certainly would have said I am. Okay. What you really fear is the loss of the known. That's what you fear. By way of an example, I made the point that everything we do is tainted with selfishness. That isn't easy to hear. But think now for a minute. Let's go a little deeper into that. If everything you do comes from self-interest, enlightened or otherwise, how does that make you feel about all your charity and all your good deeds? Really tough section we just read right before this, the masquerade of charity. That's when I needed the last 3-day break. How does that make you feel about all your charity and all your good deeds? What happens to those? Here's a little exercise for you. Are you ready? Hit pause if you need to. Give yourself a moment to connect to your breath. Relax again. Take a few easy breaths before we introduce his invitation, his exercise. Think of all the good deeds you've done, or of some of them. Bring to mind at least one that's maybe recent. Because I'm only giving you a few seconds, he says. I'm only giving you a few seconds. I'm going to actually pause for a few seconds. Bring to mind at least one good deed you've done recently. If you can't think of anything recently, I don't know, as far back as you have to go, take a few seconds and bring a good deed to mind. Now understand that they really sprang from self-interest, whether you knew it or not. What happens to your pride? What happens to your vanity? What happens to that good feeling you gave yourself, that pat on the back every time you did something that you thought was so charitable? It gets flattened out, doesn't it? What happens to that looking down your nose at your neighbor who you thought was so selfish? The whole thing changes, doesn't it? Well, you say, my neighbor has coarser tastes than I do. You're the more dangerous person. You really are. I'm gonna look at myself right now. You're the most dangerous person, you really are. Huh. For my clients that I work with, that we're working on reparenting with love, gentleness, humor, respect, I think I'm gonna bring in humor and gentleness right now. If I'm dangerous, if I'm saying to myself, I mean, that would feel like the critical inner parent that we identify, our 4 inner family members, inner child, inner adolescent, inner critical parent, inner loving parent. Just these presences within us that we're working with. Sounds more like the critical parent saying, I'm the most dangerous person. But we're not going to take time in this video to talk about necessarily how the inner loving voice, inner loving presence, inner loving parent, we call it in this work, learning to reparent ourselves, gentleness, humor, love, and respect. How might that voice speak to us? Let's see how he proceeds. Jesus Christ seems to have had less trouble with the other type than with your type. Much less trouble. He ran into trouble with people who were really convinced they were good. Other types didn't seem to give him much trouble at all. The ones who were openly selfish and knew it. Can you see how liberating that is? Hey, wake up. It's liberating. It's wonderful. Okay, is it? Are you feeling depressed? Maybe you are. Isn't it wonderful to realize you're no better than anybody else in the world? But I kind of dropped on that like it was a statement, and he asked the question. Isn't it wonderful to realize you're no better than anybody else in the world? Isn't it wonderful? Are you disappointed? Look what we've brought to light. What happens to your vanity? You'd like to give yourself a good feeling that you're better than others. But look how we brought a fallacy to light. Oh, it's not like those movies you watch with a happy ending, is it? These sections we read. It doesn't necessarily, doesn't feel like good news yet, does it? So it's really hard to stop there. The next section is really short, good, bad, or lucky. I am going to go ahead. Bottom of page 30, if you're following along. To me, selfishness seems to come out of an instinct for self-preservation, which is our deepest and first instinct. How can we opt for selfishness? Selflessness. How can we opt for selflessness? It would be almost like opting for non-being. To me, it would seem to be the same thing as non-being. Whatever it is I'm saying, stop feeling bad about being selfish. Da, 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 da! I wouldn't let myself stop until I got to the good news, would I? I felt like that's what he was saying in the last section. Again, it's all about being aware and in the mindfulness exercises that I teach us. It's about observing ourselves and all that's coming to light from that place of neutrality. If not self-compassion, how about softness or tenderness or gentleness with self? Stop feeling bad about being selfish. We're all the same. Someone once had a terribly beautiful thing to say about Jesus. This person wasn't even Christian. And he said, the lovely thing about Jesus was that he was so at home with sinners because he understood that he wasn't one bit better than they were. That may be uncomfortable for some of you to hear, but that makes me feel really good. And whether or not Jesus is just a master teacher in your heart and mind, a historical character, a mythical character, isn't in your vocabulary, you see yourself as someone who's not spiritual, doesn't believe in God, wherever you fall on the spectrum, put somebody else's name in there that you've held in high esteem. Who are you most comfortable around? I say I'm someone, if you're not new to my channel, you know that most of my life I dealt with some pretty debilitating depression at times. And I have so many tools that have helped me learn how to change the channel in my brain. And even through this last bout of illness, which was pretty serious, I never got depressed. I think that's first. Even at my worst, I was okay. Even while reading this, I've learned to laugh at myself. So even if I don't have it quite figured out, even if I'm reading something that's uncomfortable, I like questioning myself now. I like learning new things. I like stirring things up. So I'm going to read that to you again and put something, just make of this what you will. the beautiful thing, the terribly beautiful thing to say about Jesus, this person wasn't even Christian. He said, the lovely thing about Jesus was that he was so at home with sinners because he understood that he wasn't one bit better than they were. What I was about to say is I tell my clients who also deal with depression, I don't know if I trust someone who's never been, sorry, I have a dear loved one in my life who I'm happy for you that you don't really relate to what it's like to be depressed. It's still a stumper to him. But I don't fully trust people who haven't ever experienced depression. How can they understand me and my life's experience? Do they think they're better than me? I hope not. Sometimes I feel like they do. I feel like I'm the wounded creature, the flawed being. But that's who I relate to in this world. That's who I feel. It's easiest for me to get close to other flawed human beings. I mean, can you cozy up to someone who's perfect? Can you relate to someone who's perfect? I can't. Even when I used to try to be perfect. We differ from others, from criminals, for example, only in what we do or don't do, not in what we are. I read again. We differ from others, from criminals, for example, only in what we do or don't do, not in what we are. Makes me think of the phrase I learned in yoga, namaste, which is the highest in me greets the highest in you, I think. Or in the Mayan tradition, at the end of every video, or somewhere in it, I say, In Lakesh Alakin, I am you and you are me. You are another me, I am another you. I think that's what he's saying here. If I see all others like that, how might that change my world? The only difference between Jesus and those others was that he was awake and they weren't. Look at people who win the lottery. Do they say, I'm so proud to accept this prize, not for myself, but for my nation and my society? Does anybody talk like that when they win the lottery? No, because they were lucky. So they won the lottery, first prize. Anything to be proud of in that? In the same way, if you achieved enlightenment, you would do so in the interest of self, and you would be lucky. Do you want to glory in that? What's there to glory about? Can't you see how utterly stupid it is to be vain about your good deeds? The Pharisee wasn't an evil man. He was a stupid man. He was stupid, not evil. He didn't stop to think. Someone once said, I dare not stop to think, because if I did, I wouldn't know how to get started again. Whew. I love you. I love you. More to ponder until we come together again. I hope you hang in there. Again, if you're new to the channel, welcome. So much to share with you. So much that's come before this. Look at the titles of the videos and see what resonates for you. Take what you like, leave the rest. Listen to your own intuition, your own inner knowing. Subscribe to the channel and please leave a comment so I know who you are, where you're tuning in from, what on the channel you resonate with, what you want to hear more of, how you're experiencing this book, whether you're feeling uncomfortable or you're having great ahas. He said we're going to feel frustrated, annoyed, sad, mad, whatever, and there's going to be moments we go, great, yes, that's exactly what I believe. Thanks for validating. Most of us, Anthony suggests, are listening just enough to hear something that validates what we already believe. I know it feels good when what I'm hearing is in alignment. But most of all, above anything and everything, I invite you to stay as open as possible. Are you willing? It's all it requires is a willingness to be open to learning something new. I love you. I love you. I love you. Until we meet again. Bye for now, dear ones. Bye for now.